But we need to talk about Jaeger, boys. So Jaeger, I want you guys to think about for a second, take a step back and think about when was the last time you see Jaeger like a lot. You guys remember like back in the past few years, you know, Jaeger would be picked like almost every single time. His gun was good, but nowadays things are kind of different now. He's mainly only being brung on like, you know, maybe a little bit of Oregon, maybe a little bit of like some other maps. You're seeing like more of Wamai and Aruni now. Wamai and Aruni basically do Jaeger's job, but a little bit better. Aruni, I think Aruni's a bit on the other side, but it's just his gun is, I wouldn't say the most fun to use. I mean, that shit be kicking when you're using it. I just think he's not really like, even if he did have still a pretty decent gun, I don't think he's really that needed. Like, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with bringing him, but I think Wamai is more versatile. Obviously, also if you like, you know, think about it mid-round. Let's say if we're on Oregon, right, and they're doing a bunker push, but then they switched it to a freezer main. For the Jaeger, if Jaeger is roaming, then, you know, he can't come back to get his ADSs. He would have to pick him up, go bring them over, and that takes like maybe 30 to 45 seconds to do, depending on the setup time. But with Wamai, it recharges the entire round. You get up to like, I think six gadgets, and then, you know, you can pick them up. They're a little bit easier to pick up. They're a little bit, you know, you can put them anywhere. You can put them on the ceiling, in different areas. So I think Wamai just is doing Jaeger's job, but is better overall right now, especially in the meta. But if you guys remember back, I think, yeah, when Jaeger used to be a 3-speed a very long time ago, then eventually they made him a 2 armor at 2 speed. So he's decent right now. He's good health. But Jaeger used to have this seems so unrealistic now, but you guys remember when Jaeger had 3 burn for each ADS, so you could have a total of 9 burn, guys. It was crazy on attack. Like it honestly, like, it felt so normal back then, guys. 3 flashbangs for an ADS, bro. That just it seems like a thing of the past, which it is. And but back then they didn't have any like they didn't recharge. I think how ADSs are right now are really good. It makes Jaeger a bit more balanced. But back then, I can see why Jaeger was an auto pick every single time, just because it was just only like you had one of the best guns on defense, low recoil, high damage. All the entry fraggers were playing him. But nowadays you don't really see him too much. Even in Pro League, I would say. I mean, people are kind of picking more Wamai. But don't get me wrong, Jaeger's still really good. In fact, his gun is actually a little bit better than usual. I think muzzle brake is the best attachment on him so far. In my personal preference, I think the first bullet just really keeps the recoil intact. But if you're coming back to Siege and you're wondering why Jaeger might feel a little bit off, it's I think you should test with Wamai. But Wamai has, you know, he has impact grenades, beepers. I think beepers are very equivalent to barbed wire. In fact, I think it's almost better. The sound is more intimidating than, you know, barbed wire just kind of walk through, you know. I mean, Jaeger's he's had like what, 3 or 4 nerfs, you know, from getting his ACOG removed to his speed. I think Jaeger's better as a 2-speed though. But don't get me wrong, I think Jaeger is still good. You guys remember when Jaeger would always be the roamer? You would always roam with Jaeger, but now he's kind of like the that stays on site. So I think this time's really changed where Vigil takes a spot, or maybe Oryx or Malusi, or, you know, Mozzie. There's just operators that just kind of outgrown him. I think if Jaeger really want to make a comeback, his gun just his recoil just needs to be fixed a little bit more better. I just think the overall experience, as we know, like we see it with Finka or like Alibi. I think Alibi is a better example, where her weapon literally is like 75% of her pick rate, if not 90% of the 1.5. Wamai, like I said, Wamai's currently outshining him. But even Aruni, if you just put him on doorways where you want your shield, like, it's still a burn, which is really, really useful. I wouldn't be afraid to use Jaeger too much. He's still really good. I still play him a little bit. You guys might see me play him here and there. Honestly, every time I use Jaeger, I just feel really good. I've been playing him for a very long time. I love his weapon still, but it's not as good as, you know, this 1.5s in this game are very dominant right now. They're not too OP. They're not too bad, but I think nowadays Jaeger's gun is better used on site a little bit. I've only been enjoying on his gun is the holographic, the regular holo, or maybe even the red dot. I think the red dot helps balance out the recoil a bit better. But yeah, I think he's still a very deadly combo if you bring like Wamai, Jaeger, and Aruni. That would be insane. I don't think that's a little bit overkill for his shields, but I would just keep that in mind next time you guys play. Like, if you're ever trying to play in comp, something like that, like, you don't always need to bring him. He's out there. He's an option. But I would say that UB is kind of killing Jaeger a little bit. Not only like his nerfs are fine, but he's kind of like mid as a operator sometimes. But we're not really in a utility meta as much anymore. Like with floors being on the board, it's not that big of a deal. Like most of the time, if you have a shield in sight, it's going to get destroyed. You know, the attackers just have an appropriate amount of gun sixes, flashbangs, stuff like that, etc. But yeah, I don't know how you guys feel about Jaeger nowadays. He's all right, but this is kind of like the first time that we've kind of seen Jaeger take kind of a downfall in the pick rate. I'm pretty sure when they release the next, like the operator stats, I know Alibi is going to be up there, Thunderbird, Malusi, even Wamai. I don't know. I feel like Wamai is going to have a higher pick rate than Jaeger in the most recent soon. Now that I see it, you guys remember when Ash and Jaeger were just always picks regardless, but nowadays he's up there. Yeah, I think especially in the lower levels, people don't really play utility operators. You know, they'll play like like less utility of like Pulse, Rook, Doc, Cav, who else? Maybe Oryx here and there. I just think lower ranks don't really understand that meaning of utility too much. And it's honestly almost the opposite of in higher ranks. You kind of need to pick like a better gun. But yeah, man, you possibly might be killing this operator. Cost means, how can you go from silver to champ in one game? I'm not even gonna answer that. Like if you're getting massive kills and chaining the tide of the battle of a non-utility operators, you can play. Yeah, exactly. Like operators like useful when you die, like bandit, something like that. Yeah, I think that's kind of been like a metaphor, like not the meta, but like if you guys noticed, I talked a little bit about with Pengu too, but like in Pro League, have you guys noticed that teams like TSM, DZ, SSG, maybe it might be just because they've been together for a very long time, they're kind of like a little bit on a decline right now, and more of the teams like Beast Coast, Xset, OXG, I just think, you know, being able to pick up these crazy fraggers that just are able to get these really hard kills to get that normally a lot of players can get, but just being able to be aggressive and make those plays and like disrupt plays is yeah, I mean, if you don't have players in your team alive, then obviously, you know, things are gonna go downhill. So it's not really like, you know, sit behind a shield, wait for the flank kind of type anymore. There's a lot more opportunities around if you can really rely on the people who can hit those shots, and there's a lot of talented people in the NAL right now. Some people are questionable, like maybe they should take a break, but I think, Stralis as well. Stralis is really good at making those plays. They're not afraid to lose rounds. I'm a little afraid this server will have a lot of cheaters.